If you live in Portland, Oregon, then you are aware of our new composting rule. Some people either love it or hate it. Sure, it requires a bit more work, and let's face it, throwing everything away is easy. You don't have to sort things, wash things, or even get your hands dirty. You just dump everything in the garbage and the job is done. So how do we feel now that we're being forced to compost, especially when some cities don't even recycle? And the bigger question is composting really worth the effort? The answer, I think, is yes. For those of you who are outside of the city limits, I'll explain the old way we did our garbage. We had the weekly garbage picked up and yard debris bins, garbage and recycling picked up weekly, and your yard debris bins picked up every other week. Now we have these little countertop bins where we put our compost in, and we can add those food scraps into the yard debris bin, and we get the yard debris picked up weekly, whereas before, and so we get the yard debris picked up weekly, and we get the actual garbage picked up every other week. So we've switched places. The other thing about the composting is that you can compost pizza boxes, whereas before you could not even recycle them because of the oil. So there are still people who are unwilling to change. Therefore, they can either pay more money to get their trash picked up weekly, or they can get a bigger garbage can, which will also cost them more money. So it's better, if you want to keep your costs down, to adopt the new style of composting. So how do we feel about it? Some people love it. I love it. I never composted before, and I'm excited about this being an opportunity, an easy opportunity to get to do it, and I don't have to be the one out there turning the compost and spreading it around. I can do my part by just putting it in the bin and throwing it out in the yard debris. Some people were already composting. Some people have backyard composts, and they don't like the idea of having this forced on them. They don't think it's the city's place. Some people hate it. They want their garbage picked up weekly. Maybe they have really big families and just find it really hard to cut down their trash usage. And some people are thinking, does it really help? Does it really matter? So, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, composting, or compost rather, enriches soil, cleans up contaminated soil, it can prevent pollution, and there's also economic benefits. So it enriches the soil with the ability to regenerate poor soil. So compost basically creates this bacteria that breaks down the matter that makes a really nutrient-filled material. It can also help retain moisture and suppress disease as well as weeds. It can absorb odors and even bind metals to prevent them from migrating into water resources or being absorbed by plants. So it's also economic, because if you reduce water by retaining moisture, then you're not paying for the water, and it also acts as fertilizer, which is something that you don't have to purchase any longer, and can also reduce your need for pesticides, which are better for you, better for your pets, and better for your wallet, because you will be saving money on all of those things. So, aside from being really good for the soil, it can also keep trash from going to landfills. So all that food scraps that was going into landfills is now going into the composting. So the Environmental Protection Agency said that in 2010, 85 million tons of trash were kept out of landfills, specifically from composting as well as recycling. So 85 million tons of trash is the equivalent of 186 million tons of carbon dioxide that we did not pump, metric tons of carbon dioxide that we did not pump into the air. It's also the same equivalent as taking 36 million cars off the road for one entire year. So, Susan Anderson, who is the director of the Portland Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, says diverting our food waste into compost will reduce carbon emissions and also be cost effective because composting is cheaper than dumping garbage. So, yes, composting is a big change. It's hard to replace your habits. Especially in our house, we have a disposal, so our food scraps for the most part went into the disposal. So not disposing them and actually putting them in the bin is a big change for us, but we are trying it. We are trying not to use our disposal and instead to do the composting. We're noticing that we have a lot less garbage. I think we have a 5-person household and we're down to about a bag a week, depending, maybe a little more, maybe sometimes even a little less. A lot of our garbage now is just packaging. So also, we're not the first city to do this. San Francisco and Seattle have been doing it for years. Seattle 3 years, San Francisco 10 years. 10 years of voluntary composting, although in the last year and a half it has become mandatory, much like ours. I think that's exciting. I think I'm proud to be part of a city that offers that. I might not have done that on my own, and now I have the opportunity to do that. There are cities like Albuquerque, New Mexico, where they don't even have curbside recycling programs. Laura Williams, she is an author who created the article, The United States Recycling Statistics. She said that we should adopt the motto, "My state is better than your state," and try to really raise the bar for our neighbors and do good things for the environment. So I'm really proud that Oregonians can say, my state is better than your state, at least New Mexico, that is.